In this one, we're going to swap a few parts here. Or we're going to swap the laminated wood top for a laminated wood top, so it's similar to what we did before, but in this case, we're going to do it after it's confirmed. So I'll push the confirm button with the wooden top in here, and that creates the manufacturing order, but also creates the pick, and we've got that pick here. So now these two things are, I'll say, loosely linked. They are related to each other, but they're not necessarily going to update each other. So that's something important to keep in mind. Now let's say that that I do want to change that wooden top to a laminated top. I can't remove it anymore. The rubbish bin buttons have disappeared from here that you have when it's in a draft. So I can't just click the rubbish bin and get rid of it. And that's because it is linked to a transfer. And so changing something here could have repercussions further down the track in other parts of the system. So for the integrity's sake, it takes away the rubbish bin button. But I do need to manage it, and I do need to do a bit of work to make it work, but it's doable. So what we could do, we can come in here and say, well, actually I'm going to have 0 of those. And so that's now change that back to 0, and I'm going to add a line for my laminated top, and I need one of them. Okay, so that does that, and save that. And there we go. So this is telling me now that there's the wooden top is 0, so it's available. If you want to have none of them, that's easy to achieve. And the laminated top is available as well. So that does one part of it. Let's see if that did anything to the transfer or the pick. So open up the transfer. And behold, it's added the wooden top, which is what we wanted, but it hasn't updated the it's added the laminated top, which is what we wanted, but it hasn't updated the wooden top. So that's a problem. If we look at the operations, I can see that I've got both the wooden top and laminated top in there with a quantity of 1, but that's not what we want. So from here, this is a detailed operations. This is the actual pick. This is the real pick. Whereas what we've got here is a list of all the components that we need. So they may or may not be picked yet. Well, if they're in this list, they haven't been picked yet. So this is our pick list. This is our to be picked. If you want to, think of it that way. I can unreserve this stock, which wipes out all that to pick because the stock has been unreserved. I go back into my operations. I've still got the demand for these things here, but now none are reserved, none are done, and so forth. So I go back there. I can check availability, which will go and reserve the stock, and it effectively marks that stock as being reserved for a particular build in this case. If I need to, I can click on one of these source from locations, and if I know that I'm going to pull this from a different location, maybe I've got some of these legs on racks 3, for example, I can change that to there. So I'm going to grab it from a different place. I can manage the source destination, source locations here from where to pull stock if I want to pull from a different location. This is really just your quantities of what product you need and whether they're reserved or not. So it doesn't say anything about location here. But on the pick, it does. The pick, when you do your pick, you need to know where you're got to get it from, if that makes sense. I hope you're following that. Let's go back to the operations now. So we've got our laminated top in here that we wanted, which is great, one of them. But we've still got the wooden top, even though on the MO we changed that to a 0. You'll notice that here it's still 1, and this is where I'm saying it's kind of loosely linked. It's updated the laminated top here, great, but it hasn't updated the quantity for the wooden top. So that's one thing we really need to do is change that back. And at the moment, if I click on this, you'll see I can't edit it, but I need to unlock it first. So I click the unlock button. Let that load. Now it's unlocked. I can now click in here, change that to a 0. So at the moment I've still got 1 reserved because I've only changed that 1 element there. I can relock this. I'm waiting for that to load. It's loaded, and so that's good, and it's unreserved that stock now, so that's good. And so now I've got my quantities right, and I've got all the components I need. I can go back to my detailed operations, and notice that the wooden top is not there anymore because it's 0, so there's nothing to pick. So that's good. That's what we wanted. If for some reason we wanted to, we could unreserve the stock, and then when that's loading, and then check availability again, which will do the reservations for us. And you see it's the same list, but I'm just showing you that you can unreserve and re-reserve it, and change where the pull from locations are, all those sorts of things. This is all the parts you need and the quantities that you need them in, and this is the pick. Alright, so from here you can set the quantities, which takes reserves amount, puts in a done amount. So this is when you're actually doing the pick. So you've taken them from the paint shed and put in pre-production. You've taken it from the rack and put it into pre-production and so forth. I can validate this pick now. This is probably the stores people doing this. And validate the pick. And we're ready to go. So let's go back to our manufacturing order. So still got the wooden top in here, but it's 0 quantity. I've got my laminated in here with the quantity of 1 that we need. They're all reserved, so I don't have the available or the not available list listed there. So that means we're right to go. We've got the parts reserved. They're all in this location, ready for me to start building this table. So we're right to go now. So now we can go through our work orders, and I'll go through the tablet view again, even though it's not going to be used by you guys. Do our pick. I'll try and get through this fairly quickly because we've seen this before a few times. Validate that one. Validate the braces. I'm looking over here. This is where the name's changing. Validate the bolts. Yep, made of those. And there's the first work area done. Work finished. Markers done. Now I've got this, which is the second work area, which is the assembly area where I add the tabletop. So I'll go to the tablet view. We add the wooden top with 0 of them. Yep, that's good. Got some nails, we'll add them. By the way, with the laminated top, we didn't specify where we're going to use it, so the system will just tack it onto the end. But normally what you would do is grab that laminated top and substitute for the wooden top, because we're using 0 of the wooden tops, and really this should actually have a 1 beside for the laminated top, but we didn't actually specify where we're going to use the laminated top. I hope that makes sense. So mark this one as done. Right. Now we're into the painting area. Blue paint, 1 litre off, all good. That finishes that step. Now move into the QA process. This is the quality inspection. This is the last bit. Open this up. Measure the thickness. It's 1 mil. And then we do our pass fail on the rigidity when it loads. Yep, doesn't wobble. Yep, great. Pass. Okay, and then we've got our summary here. We can mark this and close the MO. Here's where it pops up, goes, hey, you got this laminated top in here, but you've also got this wood nut. Yeah, we haven't really accounted for these. So what we've done is we've added a laminated top, which was not on the original BOM, bill of materials, and we've added one of those. So this is an anomaly. And then the wooden top was supposed to use one, but we used 0 of them. And this is saying, yeah, sure, this is right. And that's exactly what we wanted to happen. So yes, so we'll confirm this. And loading. Done. So let's go and have a look at that manufacturing order, see what it can tell us. Yep, don't want that one. There's the one I just did, I think. Looks like the one. You can see the transfers, which I think it's probably not going to be any surprise that this is what was picked. Here is the operations part of it with all the components and the quantities that are required. So 0 quantities of wooden tops were required, and 1 component of a laminated top was required. So that's right. Let's go back to the MO again. Traceability bit moves, which I think we've seen before. Let's have a look at cost analysis now. So here's all the parts we used, and notice there's no wooden top in here because none were used. And so that's kind of as you'd expect. So we've got a fairly accurate analysis report for this build right here. So that's all good. Go back to the MO. And so we've now done 2 things. In the first video, we managed the components prior to confirming the manufacturing order. That's fairly straightforward. And then in the second one, we had a confirmed order where we had to manage 2 places. We had to manage the manufacturing order, and we also had to manage the pick because the pick was generated from the MO. And as I said, they're both kind of loosely linked. They do talk to each other, but we did have to manipulate both to make sure that wooden top was taken out, at least in quantity. And then we ran through the process, and right at the very end, that's when it picked up that what we built was slightly different to what the bill of materials thought we were building. And we had to just let the system know that yes, that was correct. That is exactly what we wanted to do there. So I hope that makes sense. Cool.